How are we all? Wasn't yesterday awesome? Can we have a round of applause for the speakers and the SEO Mods team from yesterday? Thank you very much. Right. So those of you who've never heard me speaking at a conference before must have worked out by now that I'm over here from England. If you've never visited England before, it's a pretty easy place to work out. It's a country where policemen chase criminals with sticks. Everyone likes a nice cup of tea. And Casey loves it when I say, shine your shoes, governor. So anyway, we're here to talk today about data. I love data. I love working with data. It helps me. Hey, AV team, we need the presentation up. This is the thing that I'm going to show them in a minute. Thank you. That was the thing that I was going to show you in a minute. Anyway, yeah, so I love working with data. It makes me smarter as a marketer, and it helps me lead my clients to make the right decisions. There's a problem, and the problem is time, right? Think about it. How much time do you guys spend waiting for CSV files to download? How much time are you putting into collecting, fetching, collating data, putting it in an Excel spreadsheet, right? So imagine that you spend half an hour a week just doing that one thing, right? Half an hour a week is 2 hours a month. 2 hours a month is 24 hours a year. And then imagine that you've got an SEO team of 20 people, right? That's like $300,000 worth of billable SEO consulting time that we're wasting. So I'm going to help you guys solve this problem. We're going to solve that problem with some tools that I'm going to give you today. And with those tools, we're going to build some awesome shit. This, my friends, is a working version of Open Site Explorer in Excel. This will tell you keywords with high volume, low competition, and whether or not there's an exact match domain in the top 3 ranking search results for that keyword, and the search volume. I'll show you this stuff later. You don't have to. And this will tell you who's linking to your site and what anchor text they're using, right? So I'm pretty excited to show you this stuff. First, we've got to start with some basics, right? We're here to talk about link analytics using APIs, right? Now, most of the people in the room aren't developers. I'm not a developer. Will Reynolds was talking about this yesterday. You don't have to be a developer to interact with APIs. It's super exciting that you don't have to be one of these people. So let me show you this. This is an API called shared count, right? I was at dinner with Dan Shaw last night, and he said, what's a really good way to get into using APIs if I've never interacted with an API before? This is it. So what we have here is Json. It's a form of text output, right? When I go to this URL, api.sharedcount.com, question mark URL equals / whatever URL you're interested in, the data that you get back is actually, it's social data, right? You've got Stumbles, you've got Reddit, Facebook, activity, it's all in there. So that's pretty exciting. We have a tool called Link Cleanup and Contact, right? So you can paste in all of your URLs, and it will give you the contact details for each one of those links. So if you're trying to outreach to sites, or if you're trying to clean up bad links, you can get the contact details for that. This has an API too. In fact, this is the first time anybody's seen this API. This is free for you guys to use, and I'm going to show you how to use it. Go to tools.seogadget.co.uk/use_API. And look, actually, some of the stuff in that data looks pretty familiar, right? You've got Google PageRank on the domain, you've got the whois details, you've got the contact URL. There's a load of really, really interesting and useful data that you can use to be better at SEO, analyze your links faster, and all of that stuff. So I'm going to switch to Excel, and I want to show you guys how to start building these types of tools. So AV, if you can switch to Excel for me. Thank you. All right, so like I said, APIs are just really a source of information. And there's no point having to go off to like a, not always at least, there's no point going off to a website and trying to download CSVs and integrating them back into your spreadsheets if you don't have to do that. So I'm going to show you some toys, right? Now, this is an API called WhipMania. And I like WhipMania because when you give it an IP address, it tells you where that IP address is. So if you're analyzing your backlinks and trying to work out where all of your inlinks are coming from, this is the tool for you, right? I'll show you how it works. So you form a URL like this. First of all, we need to get an IP address for it. I'm using SEO tools for Excel, but there are lots of other ways to do this. You can do this kind of thing with Google Docs too. So if I go equals resolve IP, seomoz.org, whoops, glad the internet's working. Okay, so www.seomoz.org. Okay, to HTTP. Sorry, I'm going to start again. Live demos, aren't they awesome? Equals resolve IP. You wouldn't believe how many times I did this when I was practicing this presentation, and now it works. But, right, so data into Excel. It doesn't stop there. Don't clap yet, because this is the easy bit. Right, so let's make a URL to form a valid API call in Excel. We do that with our friend concatenate, okay? So we're going to concatenate cell A1, look, that's where, sorry, A2, that's where our WhipMania URL is, and that IP address there. Right, now watch this. We've made a URL, we're going to copy that. I'm going to show you how easy it is to interact with APIs. Right, just paste an API URL into a browser and see what data you get. So we have US, which is pretty cool. So how do we get that into Excel? This is the first and the easiest way for you to do that. If we tell Excel to download that string, there it is. So think about that. You could have a list of links and where those links are all hosted, just using that methodology. But it gets slightly more interesting when you realize that that JSON API output I showed you in the presentation, and let me just open that, has loads of data points. I love it when it's not my machine that I'm doing this stuff on. Hang on. Here we go. OK, so check this out. We've got Stumbles, Reddits, Facebooks. So Facebook shares. So let's say that I wanted to get maybe the total number of shares on LinkedIn that I got for a link and the number of tweets that I got for a link via the API rather than any other method. So I'm going to introduce you to a function called JSON path on URL, right? Because we're working in JSON. JSON path on URL is called a JSON parser, right? So it can look for what's called a response field, like the word stumble upon, and then fetch that data and put it into our cell. The way we do that, it's like this. JSON path on URL, oops. I think that's cell A8, comma, and then we tell it what we're interested in. We're interested in LinkedIn shares, which is linked in like that. It's case sensitive. Let me just check. Capital L, capital I, that'll be it. Right, if I can do that, you can do it. So now we can build a data set with our social share data just from an API call, which is pretty exciting stuff. Right? But don't cheer yet. Thank you, but don't cheer yet, because it gets more exciting. OK, so let's imagine that you've got a list of links in your spreadsheet, and you want to know the email address in the whois record, and you want to know the page rank of the domain, maybe, and you want the contact URL for that site as well, and maybe the Twitter URL if we've got time. So let's get a bit more complex. I'm going to introduce you to a feature called HTTP Downloader. Very briefly, HTTP Downloader configures XL as a browser, so I can turn caching on and off, and I can delay requests, that kind of stuff. So the 1,000 is 1,000 milliseconds, which equates to 1 call per second. Right. What we've got to do is form a valid request URL with our API. So that would look a little bit like this, equals concatenate. Okay, now we need to take tools.seogadget.co.uk/API. We're going to anchor that with F4, comma, this URL here. This is one of Gianluca's blog posts, and our API key. Try not to remember that API key, because that's my API key, and you can't have my API key. And we haven't built the functionality that changes API keys yet either. Right. Here we go. So let's test that in a browser, because that's how we do it. Cool, there's our data. So what were we interested in first? The email. So we'll just check the name of the email data. You'd think I'd know my own API better than this. Yeah, email. OK, that's pretty self-explanatory. Right, so equals JSON path on URL, right? That URL there, comma. We need the email. And we're also going to fetch HTTP downloader. OK, screwed that up again. Oh, so US keyboards have the @ symbol in a different place. That's all. That's why I was screwing that up. OK. Now, let me fix this. I think I need to put a $, and a ... There you go. Email addresses from Whois into Excel from a list of links. Right? OK, gets more interesting than that. Let's just grab, I don't know, PageRank or something like that as well. So let's go for Google_domain_PageRank. Now we can just copy our formula, paste that in like that, and we'll just change email to Google domain PageRank, wasn't it? There you go. So think about the power of that, right? You didn't have to download a thing to make that work. And I just did it, and I'm really not that smart. So yeah. But it gets more interesting than this. AV, could we switch back to the presentation just quickly? That's cool, right? But what was the thank you. What was the thing that I showed you at the beginning of the presentation? The cool thing was the SEO Gadget links API extension for Excel. This is super exciting. So I'm just going to switch back to Excel and show you this rather than bang on about what it actually does. Thank you. OK. So the problem that we've been having with working with lots of link tools, not just Open Site Explorer or the MozCon API, is that we're always waiting for absolutely ages to get our data. Then we have to integrate it into Excel, like consolidate it, merge it. I want to spend my time analyzing, right? So how should we do this? Everybody knows about the SEO Moz URL metrics API, right? Actually, guys, could you just switch back to the presentation? I want to show you one thing first before we do this. Right. This is important, actually, because the MozCon API is awesome. There are 4 key APIs. I'll show you this first, because then the Excel bit will make a lot more sense. There are 4 key APIs in the MozCon API. We've all been using URL metrics, which is the thing that spits out page authority, domain authority, total linking root domains to the subdomain, if you're a pro member, all of that stuff, right? So that's the one that we all know. It's the one that all of the Google Docs hacks work with. But there's 3 more, and they're super exciting. Top pages. You know the report in Open Site Explorer that tells you your most linked to pages on your site? Top pages on domain is the top pages API. It returns a list of URLs in order of the number of linking root domains to each URL. Anchor text API, you know what the anchor text API does. It tells you how people are linking to you and with what anchor text. And then the links API is super powerful. The links API spits out links. So you give it a URL, and it tells you who's linking to you. That's the thing that I'm going to show you next. I'm super excited about this. So our tool, the links extension for MozCon, grabs all of that data with these functions. So if we can switch back to Excel now, please. Thank you. Right, let's do this. OK, this is how easy it is. In an API response, do you remember I showed you these little data points here? They're called JSON response fields. OK, so that's like what the data is called. With SEO Moz, the response fields, you kind of have to learn them, right? So let's do something like equals SEO Moz underscore URL metrics. Let's find our function. Let's say we want to learn about the link metrics for SEO Moz. Okay. There you go. So that's kind of like the same as the SEO Moz toolbar output, but it just appears kind of straight away. And you can see what I've done here. This UT and UU and UEID, they're the JSON response fields in the SEO Moz API output. And what I've done is I've worked through each one and worked out what they are from a list of what we call response fields. And if you go to Google and just Google SEO Moz bit flags, there's a whole list of these. So that bit's really, really, guys. Who's spamming Google, right? It's not me. That sucks. OTG. Thank you. Check this out. Go here. Request response format documentation. And if you scroll down, right, so each of the responses that you get from the SEO Moz URL metrics API ties into a response field. So you know what data it is. So if we switch back to Excel, right, here we go. So the linking title, or the title is SEO software, la la la, it's SEO Moz, got that many external links, this much Moz rank, and so on and so forth. But you can do this for a row as well, so it's not just one URL at a time. It's super efficient, actually, because instead of making a single API call for each URL, it actually groups all of the responses requests together, so it's really friendly on the SEO Moz API. So URL metrics to fit. If I do this, there you go. So you can like really build a quick data set with this, and you can integrate this into like a table of links. So it'll just fetch all this data and populate it into a huge table. So that's the first thing. The next thing that you have to understand with these APIs are what are called bit flags, right? So you see this cols equals X, Y, and Z, like it's a whole big number. I don't even know what that number is. Well, what that's doing is we can describe what data we actually want to fetch from the API. So here's my list of response fields again. So if I asked SEO Moz just for the title and URL in the request URI, then that's all the data I'd get. So that, very briefly, would look a little bit like this, equals SEO Moz. URL metrics to fit. Let's get SEO Moz. So if we did this, look, cols equals, I guess it was 5, wasn't it? Then you see I only get 2 data points. So that's being super polite to the API. We're only asking for the information that we actually want. And all you have to do is add up those bit flag values, and you can tell it what information you want that way. So yesterday, Will was talking about how you should look at the distribution of links across all of the pages on your domain, right? Well, we can do that with this. There you go. So this is the 100 top linked to pages on seogadget.co.uk. That cols number there that's the sum total of all the bit flags that you can request in the free API. I think the full number adds up to like 13 something something something. But there's something else really important happening here, and this has been a big problem for us when we've been interacting with the SEO Moz API. In the past, we've just been asking for one URL at a time, which isn't polite at all. What we're now doing is we're asking for batches of data, which is why it's so much quicker, because we're getting it from one single API call. So that 100 there is fetch me 100 results in batches of 20 requests, which is really cool. So it gets even cooler than that. This is the Links API. Now, the Links API is basically Open Site Explorer. So let me explain this. The Links API has a couple of different arguments. So you've got the bit flag thing that I've been talking about, but you also have a thing called scope. Right now, scope, which is this first argument, page to page, just there. Scope is a way of describing what type of links do you want to see. So page to page is show me linking pages that link to my page. But it could be page to domain, which would be show me linking pages that link to my domain. Or domain to domain, which is really powerful, show me one link from each domain that's linking to my domain. So that means that you're not getting loads of duplicate data. You're just seeing the best link from each domain linking to you. Then we have sort. Sorts by page authority, in this case, right? So show me this linking data in order of the highest page authority. You can sort by domain authority and a whole bunch of other stuff too. Target calls. Give me linked data about the target, the page that I'm actually linking to. Source calls is just the bit flag, the URL metrics bit flag. So this is the information I want about all of the pages linking to my site. And then link calls is give me information about the link itself. Link calls equals 8 is normalized anchor text. So that's just SEO Moz's opinion of the anchor text that people are using to link to me. Now, if I grab this query, I should be able to get 100 results. Let's give this a go. Yeah, that was quick, wasn't it? Right? I'm really excited about this because it's going to save me so much time. It's cool. I've been really enjoying playing with this. I'll show you why I've been really enjoying playing with this. I'll just give you one more query, and then we'll play with some tools. This is the anchor text API. It does exactly the same thing. There you go. So that's just the top. So what this is actually doing is it's showing me the most popular terms or phrases linking to my domain in order of the number of subdomains linking with that anchor text. So this is really interesting, actually, when you look at this data, because if you look at external pages linking here and compare that to the number of external subdomains linking, actually, I think I've got my formatting wrong. That's actually supposed to be subdomains, not this one here. So 8369 versus 7747. You can spot like really heavy site-wide links this way, because if your external pages is really high, but the actual number of domains linking to you with that anchor text is really low, you should definitely go and work out what's going on there, because that might be causing you some problems. So let me show you this, because this is a platform that you can build stuff on, right? You've got a whole bunch of different queries. So there's no set way that you have to actually perform your link analysis. You can just grab whatever data in whatever format you want, and you can make really interesting things like this. This is free to download, by the way, and you can also get this template from our site, and it should be live on seogadget.co.uk/mozscape. So let's have a look at the top pages linking to www.seomoz.org. The formatting's a bit wacky, so you won't be able to see this as well as I can. Oh, it's done it already. Let's get 100 results. A little bit slower. There you go. And let's maybe sort by internal links. I think we can do that. Right, so the way this actually works is this. This is the dev version of Open Site Explorer. And all I'm doing is, here's that great big long query string that we've been playing with along the top. All I'm doing is I'm making some of the values a variable in the query, right? So the scope, page to page or page to domain, it's now using what we call data validation to change the value. So here's G4, which is our scope, and here's the G4 value, which is page to page, but I've created a drop-down, so I can change those things. That should probably work, yeah. And the way I'm doing that is with what's called data validation. So if you look in here, look, it's actually looking for a list of different variables in a different table, which is, I think it's hidden over here. Yeah, here it is. So it's just fetching the different values for the drop-downs from these 3 tables. Yeah, pretty exciting, right?
You're going to share that worksheet?
Yeah, so you can, yes, Dana, you can download this stuff from, I'm not going to make you build this from scratch. But what I want you to do is I want you to show me what you can build, right? Because all of the instructions are on the site, so you can go and, so let's do some interesting stuff. Yesterday, Matt was talking about different kinds of links that might be kind of spammy. And he said that like MozTrust was a really good example of how to weed out slightly sketchy looking links. And I haven't actually done this yet, so I'm just going to work it out as I go along. I think that what I need to do is find the bit flag for MozTrust, which is going to be in here somewhere. There it is. So could somebody remember 132096 for me? So I want to find out how spammy my backlink profile is. According to like Matt's research, he was saying that MozTrust correlates very well with bad quality links. So the way I could do this now is go equals SEO Moz URL metrics, which is down here. I'm going to just grab this whole list of URLs like that. There does look to be some kind of spammy links in there. This is SEO Gadget backlink profile. So I've been doing some weird experiments with it. Let's find out. So Coles equals, what was it, 196? What? Yours what? 132. Could one person say that? You?
132.
Yeah.
096.
Thank you so much. My memory is terrible, isn't it? 132096. Okay, let's just. Cool. So that's how to do that. MozTrust is in there somewhere. I think if you just go back and check the response fields, UTRP and UTRR, yeah. So this is the only bit about working with APIs. The response fields take a little while to get used to. Yeah. So there you go. That's our MozTrust. And now you could do things like sort by lowest MozTrust to weed out your worst links. Yeah, which is pretty exciting. And then I was just playing with one thing, and I'll probably switch back to the presentation after I've done this to leave it running. But think about like using APIs for link outreach. So I built this with the SEO Moz API and our API. What it does is it fetches all of the contact details for your competitors' best links. Now, distilled dot. Now this takes a little while because there's a lot of heavy lifting going on in there. But it's doing a couple of things. So it's making a call to the links API at Open Site Explorer, and it's saying, send me a list of the 10 best links pointing to distilled.net. And then for each one of those URLs, Excel's then going off to our API. Look, you can see I've put enter your API key in there. And it's making our API go off and fetch all of the contact details, the who is, what else is in there, LinkedIn, Twitter, blah, blah, blah. I need to work on this a little bit. It's really alpha. It's a bit slow. But we'll come back to this as it's running, because it's at 1%. It will jump up. It's a little bit quicker than that. So anyway, guys, could you just switch me back to the presentation just quickly? Yeah. So we looked at, very briefly, how we can build things like Open Site Explorer in Excel. We're just using basic data validation now, lumped queries, and some text entry, which I'm going to be hanging around at the conference for the next 2 days to show you. So just tap me up, and I'll probably just grab a table and just show you guys some stuff if you want to see that. We can find high volume, low competition keywords. I'm going to show you this working in a bit, but check this out, right? So basically, if you put, I've got to get all the way over there. You see that list of keywords on the left? If you put in a keyword, then it will fetch the first 3 ranking results, ranking URLs by position. It uses our AdWords API extension to get the search volume for that keyword. And then what it's doing is it's talking to the links API to fetch the number of linking root domains that each one of those ranking URLs has. And then it averages the number of linking root domains that each one of those URLs has to get average root domain links to subdomain and average root domain links to page. And then we've got an exact match domain detector as well. So it's actually taking the keyword, replacing all the spaces, and looking for that keyword in the bit between the subdomain and the top-level domain in the link. So you know, right, if you're going for a keyword, whether or not you're competing with an exact match domain, and roughly how many root domain links you're going to have to build to the page and the domain to have a bit of a chance at getting it to rank. Yeah, I'll show you that in a second. This is how it works. I know you can't see that epic query along the top, but that's the exact match domain detector. It's really epic, so if you want a copy of that rather than having to work it out yourself, just give me a shout. And then, yeah, finally, still the contact details of your competitor's best links. And if you can switch back to Excel for me, guys. I broke it. It sometimes works, right? I'll release this when I'm happy. It's the ideas that count, right? Yeah, that's pretty exciting stuff. What I have been doing, I'll show you something that I'm developing at the moment, because I'm not sure if we've got enough time, but this query here is a Google search query to show me all Google Plus profiles that contain writer or blogger and food, right? So food bloggers, okay? Now in Excel, what you can do, I'm not sure if have we got time, Laura? I think we've got a little bit of time. So the thing that I've been working on, and I haven't quite finished it yet, is what if we could get all of the contact URLs that are contained on a Google Plus page straight into our spreadsheet. So I'm just going to give this a try. So basically, there's a function in Excel, it's called XPath on URL. In Google Docs, it's called import XML, right? Which uses XPath to just find data from web pages. So in this case, the XPath that we're looking for is this class here, which will give us the ranking URL in each one of Google's search results for that query. Now, if we just, let's go for, I don't know, let's go for 20 Google Plus profiles. If I press F2 to make that an array, let's see if I can. I'm just building this as I go, so I don't know if I'm going to be able to make it work in time, but I'd like to just give it a try because I think it's fun. Yeah, we'll maybe come back to that later, but forget about it. Let me just show you one more thing, and then I'll get out of your hair. So the competitiveness tool, let's just do full screen. Right. So let's say we're interested in SEO tools. Okay, what it should be doing is just fetching that first 3 ranking URLs. So please do that now. There you go. So what it's done is it's fetched those first 3 rankings. It's already gone and got the average root domain links to subdomain. There's an exact match domain in there in that top 3, so I'd probably want to avoid that like the plague, unless you're feeling really brave or you've got a super powerful domain. And here it is in the chart. So you can see, look, even though the average search volume is pretty low, the number of linking root domains you need to rank well for SEO tools is pretty high. So I'd avoid that keyword and start looking for stuff that's the opposite of that. Anyway, if I can just switch back to the presentation, I'm going to leave you guys alone. So marketers, now you can rapid prototype applications on your own terms, right? We don't have to be developers to work with APIs. It's really easy to do. It's easy to do in Excel. It's easy to do in Google Docs. So you can build stuff that you want to describe to your development team to make a reality, which I'm really excited about. And yeah, before I close, just one thing. We're making this tool free and for public use. You can do whatever you like with it. All I ask that if you do actually use it, we support in the UK a charity called Starlight, which is a children's foundation. You can find out more about them on our site. And if you're willing to make a donation to help those kids out, then I would be very, very grateful for that. Thank you so much for listening.